who you are, because that's who they came to see.
I'm Hannah, and I am the founder of Hannah Speaks, and I love to talk about domestic abuse.
That is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be doing this, everybody, every other week. So please, to the best of our ability, we're going to do this show so that you can join in. Make sure you tell a friend. In the climate in which we live in today, with the difficult and critical times that we live in, people are constantly being pushed and shoved in many different ways in domestic situations, some very tragic. So we wanted to provide this platform, and Hannah is taking the lead in doing so. So Hannah, tell everybody about, how they can reach you. I know there's some ways they can reach you, right? Facebook and a whole bunch more. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've got our Instagram page, which we're doing through today, which is Hannah Speaks. We've also got our website, which will be going live this evening. As soon as we've done the video, we're going to be launching our website, which is hannahspeaks.co.uk. And through our website, we're going to be uploading our videos, but also offering coaching sessions. We're going to be offering 4 kind of different coaching sessions that can be available to people that really want to engage more when discussing about domestic abuse and wanting to learn more and empower themselves to move away from it. We've also got our Facebook page as well, which is Hannah Speaks. And we're just growing from there. It's all very new still, but we want to just grow and develop and get people aware that it's okay to talk about domestic abuse. And I want to use my voice to really shout about it, because it's such a subject that people don't want to talk about very often. It's not something that people feel they can share with others. So we want to use our platform for that reason.
And a lot of times it's often swept under the rug in many homes, in many situations and communities. I do have to say this, not ignoring everybody. So Love 7 Angels is here. I believe that says Asheriz, that says Grizzo Scale. NARC Survivor, Love and Life, Joyous, Chelsea Keene, and of course Veronica 619 is here. The whole point of what you're doing is not something you just thought of overnight, correct? We actually met last year, but you've been doing this for a bit. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so I've been working in domestic abuse now for about 2.5 years. Started with a small understanding and knowledge around it, and then the more I learned, and especially the more people I encountered, the more my knowledge expanded as well. The more I kind of came to terms with, this is a big thing, why haven't we not spoken about it before? Having experienced past it myself, it was kind of this idea of, well, if I kept quiet about it, how many other people have kept quiet about it? So I've been trying over the last 2.5 years to reach out to as many people as possible. I've worked with about 200 women and a few groups of men as well, trying to get people to open up, and also kind of, there's so many different platforms to it. One, to open up, to realise that abuse is real and you haven't made it up. It's a real thing, because an abuser is so good at telling you that you're the problem. An abuser is so good at making you think that you've got the issue. So it's kind of making people aware that it's a real thing, abuse. This does happen. And we are here to listen. I want to listen, and I want to support people to move forward away from abuse, because what we end up seeing is really unhealthy patterns of one relationship to the next. So hopefully with platforms like this, we can kind of put a stop to that, or help people go the right way towards healthy lifestyles and healthy relationships.
It's just curious. You probably, it's curious to me. I need to ask you this. You no doubt have seen that, where people go from one relationship to the other, not trying to choose someone to abuse them, but they end up going from one abuse to the next abuse. How do you react to that? How do you deal with that? You've seen that, maybe, yes?
Definitely, and it is a really common thing, and it's because what tends to happen is we haven't learned from the previous. And that's a big thing with abuse, is you've got to kind of put your hands up and be like, yeah, this was actually really abusive. And what we tend to do is play down the abuse. And a lot of people will compare, well, this partner's not like the other one. This one doesn't do what the other one did, so it's still okay. This then all comes down to you and how you value yourself and see yourself. we talk a lot about self-worth and self-respect, identity and dignity. If you have a low threshold for what you see yourself as, you're then going to not really kind of not care, but you're not going to have a higher standard for who you should be dating and bringing into your life. And that's where we see this repetitive pattern of, I don't see myself being worthy of anything other than this relationship that's quite unhealthy, but I don't see how I could go forward from it. It's definitely a common trait. Not always the case, but that kind of is a key factor of repetitive, unhealthy behaviors, definitely, and relationships.
So breaking that system of, or lifestyle of a repetitive behavior, it can take some work then.
Yeah. It's so hard, and I trust me, I know, I've done it, and it's not an easy journey. It really isn't, and you still have to learn. It doesn't just happen overnight. And I'm fortunate enough where I run these courses, I get a weekly dose of, Hannah, remember to love yourself. Hannah, remember that these patterns aren't good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing, is people will get help for that specific time, and then we kind of lose focus again, and you meet someone else and you lose track of yourself again, where it is all based around, you have to know who you are, what you want, who you deserve, to then be able to move forward into healthy relationships. But it does take time, but it all centers around ourselves. And I think a lot of the time when we talk about abuse, we talk about the perpetrator or the abuser. We don't ever sit there and talk about ourselves in the sense of, how can I feel empowered to move forward from this? What did I lose from it? Let's move forward and let's regain and rebuild ourselves from that.
Okay, so I want to do that with this show.
Yeah.
You're the second show on our network, and there's a number of other shows that are coming, but with this show, near and dear to my heart, so is the Coach Jess show. Hers is about resiliency and relationships and bouncing back. You're talking about digging deep and understanding who we are and not focusing so much on the abuser, or in other words, just being negative about that, but seeing the positive in ourselves so that we can work on ourselves, if I understand you correctly?
Yeah, definitely. What I'm saying is, it's the whole, I don't want to give the abusers any more credit. I don't want to talk about them. Yeah, I can talk about what they get up to and their tactics and traits, but to move forward from abuse, what I need to do is look at myself and think, well, how do I value myself? How much do I respect myself to want the best for me? And don't get me wrong, I am fully aware of how hard it is to leave an abusive relationship. That the list can go on and on and on. But at the end of the day, if I just value myself a tiny little bit more, I'm going to then feel like I deserve a lot more. And that's what it comes down to. It's about abuse. At the end of the day, is the abuser's choice. They had a choice in that. They chose to abuse. However, what I can do now is choose to empower myself to move forward and not be in those repetitive patterns of unhealthy behaviors.
When it comes to, and you did mention this the very first time we did two episodes together last year about valuing ourselves. I remember that. That was over a year ago. And I have to say, I want you mentioned some really good points back then, but right now, please share one or two things that someone can put into effect today to show that they're valuing themselves and start to distance themselves from their abuser.
One of the main things we do personally on the courses that I run, and it sounds like a really simplistic idea, but give yourself a gift every single week or every single day. It doesn't have to be financial at all. But by giving myself 5 minutes extra in the bath, or making myself an extra strong cup of tea before I deal with the kids' breakfast or whatever, what I'm doing is putting myself first. And what we've been taught and programmed is that being selfish is wrong. Abusers want their needs met first. By giving ourselves a gift, we're putting ourselves first. We're changing selfish to self first, and we're really looking after ourselves. And over a long amount of time, we're then building up. We're giving ourselves time. We're giving ourselves those little gifts to make us feel like us again. So that's one thing I always suggest to people, is giving yourself to little gifts. The other thing as well is to look really deep into yourself and think, what do I actually love? And this kind of then plays into your gifts as well, is What do I really enjoy doing? What do I get out of a day that is empowering for me? And then focus on that. Because what we find is similar to the gift situation is we put so much time, effort and energy into the abuser's wants and needs, we then forget our own basic needs. And another one that is a classic one that we all forget is our rights. You know, I asked this.
What do you mean by that?
Our rights.
Our rights are like our individual rights?
Our individual rights,
okay.
Definitely. And we talk about this a lot. The women that I've worked with is, if I were to say, what are your rights? It kind of goes over people's heads. They're like, what do you mean? And it's that common thing of that we tend to all forget.
That just happened to me.
It just happened there. An example of a right would be, I have the right to say no.
Oh, okay.
I have the right to be me. I have the right to put myself first. I have the right to be in a safe and healthy relationship. And it's all those things that we totally forget. So giving yourself a daily reminder of, I have the right to be Hannah today, or I have the right to wear what I want. That's a classic one with abusers, is you can't wear what you want to wear. So if I tell myself every day, I have the right to wear what I want to wear, I'm then building myself up again to be like, yes, I can do these things and I don't need the approval of my abuser or abusive relationships.
When it comes to, well, you gave us 3, right? You gave us 3. We need to give a gift to ourselves. The second one, dealing with our basic needs, or how would you put it if I said it correctly?
Dealing with understanding your basic joys and needs and wants rather than everyone else's.
Then everybody, okay, got it. And the second one, dealing with our individual rights, making sure that we have the right to say no. The abuser doesn't have the right to dictate every stitch of clothing we have on, or our clothing, in other words, our food, the music, movies we choose. We have preferences, and they should not be kicked to the curb. We need to acknowledge that. Okay, with those 3, just that you shared with us there, those 3 really put the abuser at a distance, because now we get to be ourselves or separate from the abuser and not just under their control. But that could be hard, for someone to do that. They could start to feel shame and guilt that, oh, I'm being mean to them. But that's not correct, right, Hannah?
No, totally not correct. It's all about putting yourself first again. It's not that selfish ideology that we've had for so many years. It's self first. And what will happen if I start putting myself first, I will start to ruffle the feathers or annoy the people that don't like it. And the main reason they don't like it is because they can't manipulate me anymore, because I'm putting myself first. I'm putting boundaries in place. When I do my rights, when I say I have the right to say no, that's a boundary. When I say I have the right to wear what I want to wear, that's another boundary. The more boundaries I put in place, the further I'm pushing an abuser or a potential abuser away. That's going to get so hard for them to try and manipulate me, because I'm strong-minded and I know what I have the right to, and I know what I enjoy, and I know my basic human rights. So the more we start doing these small little things like the gifts and reminding our rights, the bigger impact eventually will be that I've got boundaries in place for an abuser or a potential abuser that they'll really struggle to get there. Because what tends to happen is we don't have an understanding of our rights. We don't have an understanding of putting ourselves first, and that's an easy door for an abuser or a manipulator to come into.
So we're talking more than just pointing out what someone else is doing toward us. We're more understanding maybe their tactics and the sneaky things they may do, but we don't live there and just focus totally on that. We start to now focus on, well, the 3 tips and others that you're going to give, so that we can start to understand that we really have some power, if not all the power. We have all the power over ourselves, and technically we have maybe some power in the way we react to what the abuser does. But the abuser gets their feathers ruffled. What can a person do then?
If the abuser's feathers have been ruffled, that's your red flag. That's your red flag. So let's say they start picking up on the fact that I'm wearing what I want to wear. I should automatically think that person's going against my voice, what I've chosen to do. That's when you see those red flags. then we have to start looking at, are we strong enough to push away those red flags? Because trust me, I know everyone's been there, or lots of people have been there, where they see a red flag and they ignore it. They think, oh, I don't think it is. Whereas what we try at Hannah Speaks is to really build up on this self-empowerment and this self-awareness and strength to say, I don't like that red flag and I'm not going to chase it and I'm not going to be involved in it. Because that's another starter for unhealthy patterns, is we see things and we ignore them. We give people the benefit of the doubt. We think, oh, it was just a one-off, or I have to be confident in myself to say no and to push that person away. Definitely.
So if we ignore the disrespect, it will only increase to the point that we're looking at a situation where the abuse will get worse, because we just keep sweeping it under the rug, which is what the abuser wants. They want us to be silent and not have a preference. We just go along to get along and never identify who we really are. Now, you have experienced that then, personally. Now, we've talked, of course, before when you came on, but a lot of people may or may not know who you are. So let's say we took 25 seconds. If you took 25 seconds, you're not going to be able to count this in your head. I'll keep an eye on it. Take 25 seconds and describe what your life was like when you were dealing with an abuser. Can you try it for 25 seconds? Wait. I'll let you get your thoughts. I'll let you just get your thoughts first. Just describe what it was like. In 25 seconds. Go.
Mental torture. Self-doubt, constant self-doubt that, am I making this up? Am I the one causing this? Physical elements to it as well. But I think the biggest aspect was the mental side of it. It was that constant, I liken it to addiction. I haven't been addicted, but from what I've heard from other people is I liken it to addiction, in the sense of, this is the person that makes me feel the crappiest at times, but this is the person that pulls me up from that crappiest moment. And then when I feel down again, what do I need? I need that fix. So I'm going to go back to that crappy person. And that's the God's honest truth of explaining how that relationship was an addiction. And I can put my hands up to that and say that now. It's like, I couldn't let go because that was my main fix.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, everybody, don't jump on me. I know it was past 25 seconds, but it was so good I couldn't stop it.
Yeah, sorry.
So go ahead. No, go ahead, girl. Go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going. No, go ahead. You're getting tons of heart. Then I see everybody writing us here. We're gonna get to it in just a second. I just go ahead and finish. Anything else you wanted to add, especially for those that are listening to this and they're beginning their journey of having to deal with domestic abuse and they want to be free of it. These are some really beautiful words you're saying.
There is definitely, you have to, and it's horrible to say this, and I hate to say it because it's then putting the onus on us, but if we want our life to change, we've got to do it. The abuser is content with keeping the situation as it is, and if we're honest, they probably want it a lot worse, so then we're really manipulated, we can be manipulated, so it's putting yourself first. It is literally putting yourself first and foremost, and wanting as much positivity for yourself. I think that's the only way I can explain it, is there is definitely a life after abuse, but we have to, with support, with encouragement and strength from the right individuals, we have to push through it and see that, but give ourselves the credit that it will happen. Don't self-doubt.
And even when we may be having a good day and not having to chase red flags, as you said a little bit earlier, or anything like that, that's not the time to let the guard down, right? We still need to continue to take care of ourselves, or how'd you put it? We need to give a gift to ourselves. We need to know our rights, that we have the right to say no, and we need to take care of our basic needs. We can't do that for a little bit and then let our guard down, because then the abuser has another opening.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you're in an abusive relationship, there will be, we talk about openly the cycle of abuse, where you will have this really lovely honeymoon stage, and then it goes to the calm where everything's good, then it's the tension building, and then it's the incident, and then it goes back to the reconciliation and the honeymoon stage. So it is a sense of, while you're in this relationship, that cycle is constantly going behind closed doors. No one else can see it. You're not even aware of it. I came across a woman the other day who said, I knew there was a cycle, but I didn't know what it was. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, people have to come on the course to know that. And this girl
Wow.
knew. She was like, I knew
she
it was
picked
a
it up.
cycle. Yeah. She said, I didn't know how to explain it, but she's like, I knew it was a cycle. And so as soon as you, let's say we have a day where we're building ourselves up, that's probably when the tension will start building in that cycle of abuse, because you're challenging the behaviors of the abuser and you're not doing as they please or what they want from a submissive partner, essentially. And that's when the incidents happen. So even when you are building yourself up, and if you're still in that cycle, it's really hard, because you're up against someone that doesn't want you to succeed. They don't want you to be away from them. Again, it's that addiction. It's that addiction on both parties.
And we're not talking about, I just want to say this again for many of you who may be coming in, just a recap, a small recap. Of course, feel free to rewatch this later here on NARC Abuse TV Network. Hannah is the second show. Hannah Speaks is the second show on our platform, on our network. The Coach Jess show deals with resiliency in relationships and recovery. Hannah will be focusing our attention, and for those who would like to join in and talk in this group chat about domestic abuse, how to not focus on the abuser, understand the tactics and the techniques and the machinations and subtle things that they may do, but really to focus on the life skills necessary to recover, separate oneself, and to really take care of yourself if you have life after abuse, and how to move on to a healthy relationship. I got to get to the screen here, Hannah, before we have to go. This is the pilot show. This is for us to get all our kinks out before we give you our first episode, which will take place in a couple of weeks. You will see a number of people who will come on before our second season is over with, that will have their own show here on NARC Abuse TV Network. You had a few things here. I'm going to scroll back here and make sure I get everybody and not leave anybody out. Let's see. They usually flip out or go passive aggressive, silent treatment, or guilt trip.
Yeah.
You've experienced that and seen that even in your courses and your workshops?
Yeah, that's a common one. It's that kind of classic childlike behavior. They don't get their own way. So what do? They act like a child. They sulk. They like you said, passive aggressive, smashing things in the room. You know, it's that kind of very childlike attitude towards a relationship. The immaturity level is beyond me. And that is a classic example of somebody that's an abusive person or has abusive traits.